Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Friday Night Light. I am Little Fawn. Hello. So I just ate a piece of chocolate. How is everyone feeling as we move through this kind of eclipse portal that we're in now? And I know it must seem like there's it's just one portal after an extra after another one right now. But that really kind of is what it is. We're spiraling in that upwards ascension movement so quickly. I don't know if you guys have been feeling how time has definitely been kind of collapsing in on itself and then quickening and unraveling, like it's suspended. It's not it's no longer this fixed linear trajectory that we're on. So depending on where we are in that spiral loop will depend on whether or not things move nice and stretchy and slow, or there's like a little lift up. Sorry. Yeah, I live on a busy street. But it's too nice to close the windows, so we might get an occasional dance party or race down the street, who knows. So apologies in advance. But yeah, depending on where you are in the spiral depends on if you're kind of moving nice and slow or if you're stuck between loops, or if you're spinning out into something else. And we're spinning out into something else. So if things seem a little fast, and I know they have for me, let me know in the comments how it's been for you. But it's definitely been there's been a quickening so to speak. And I wasn't sure what I was gonna do this week, if I was just gonna do like a in the moment channeled message, if I was going to see what came through in my meditations and transcribe it for you guys. But there's been a lot of just movement, both energetically as a collective consciousness of humanity and also in my own world. I'm also a musician, and this time of year a lot of the towns nearby do porch fests, which are these amazing community days of music, and bands are on different porches and you can kind of walk or ride your bike. And the town I used to live in for quite a long time has one of the biggest ones, so I'm getting ready to play that and then a couple of others the following week. So I've been all over my little board so to speak. But yeah, so what they kind of nudged me to do is I do monthly workshops. I'm fortunate enough to live in a beautiful space that is above a beautiful space, and downstairs is a holistic center. And so she's generous enough and gracious enough to allow me to utilize that space once a month for this beautiful group of women that, I mean, all are welcome, it just happens to be women now, but that we come together every month and we kind of just tune into the energies of where each of us are, each one of us is, each of us are, and just the overall energy and the vibe of like from the last time we saw each other to this time. And so I facilitate, we go deep in with the reflective tarot. They're personalized spreads that I do for these each month, and encourage them to start reading and getting their own messages from within that. And then I help do readings for each of them to clarify things. And we do guided meditation, chakra alignment. We work with the medicinal aromatherapy so we can utilize that on a soul level for shifts in the subtle body, the frequency field. And then we go into a quantum healing with sound and light language and all of that. So they're really beautiful. And each one kind of rolls itself out depending on, the energy of that time. So last month's, we did it at the end of the month, so still close in time. And it was at the gateway of the opening to this eclipse season portal. Yeah. I told you races too. So it was the black moon in Virgo, and it was a new moon. I had to remember. It was a new moon. Black would signify that it was dark. And the messages, I always do a channeled message or an invocation or invitation to accompany kind of the astrology notes I put in there and the messages from the essences themselves, the card spread, all of that. So they gave me the title Embracing Chaos as an Agent of Powerful Creation. And that is what we're in right now. Like, creation is born inside of the void, and the void is dark. And when you're bouncing back and forth between high contrast times, another image that they gave me just today actually, when I was doing my little kind of channeled writings, it because we're spiraling up so quickly, and we are learning, like if you're here, if you're doing this work, we're learning how to begin sustaining these higher frequencies and maintaining them as our new baseline. So if we started out heavy in that kind of third density, fourth density, like, you know what I mean? If we're in this kind of thickness of it, as you start to do this work and kind of crack open and dissolve out and alchemize and transmute and then bring in the new light codes and start to integrate and spiral up, your ground zero is shifting. It's shifting every time you pop in to do the work, or every time there's a major shift for the collective. If you're doing the work on your own, you'll find that by the time it rolls out for the collective, you've already actually been one of the first to spiral up. So I have to roll it back because they're flashing the images in right now. The first image that they gave me was of that, you think in these spirals that, oh my God, we've fallen. We've hit another rock bottom. How many rock bottoms are there? How much of this high contrast bounce can we do? And I know we talked a little bit about that last week in finding the nexus point, that place where the spins cancel each other out and you're in that peaceful expanse of your own serenity. But what's actually happening is we're not dropping all the way back down to those lower, denser energies. But because we've had a taste of these higher frequencies that we're now sustaining and maintaining for longer stretches, when there's a dip, it's a shorter drop, but it feels crappier, if that makes sense. Because once you know what like that new homeostasis feels like, once you know, it's like when I used to work for the chiropractor, once you get your hip adjusted and it's where it's supposed to be, when it slides itself back out again, not out like for real, but you know what I mean, but once it's like not, aligned as well as it could be, you're worse at it than you were when it being out was your norm. So when the norm was kind of thicker and denser and we were like sludging through together, you get good at it. You build up this kind of toughness, the tarot card they show me is like that Nine of Wands, where it's like everything's, it's the warrior, but he's weary and everything's just around the corner, but everything's a battle and here we go again. And it's like you get used to that kind of grit and drive, that like heavier perseverance, and you don't yet understand that perseverance can also just be a flow inside of a little bit more of a fluid path, and a little more synchronistic in frequency. So if you feel like you have these peaks and then you think you're dropping all the way back down, just know that it isn't actually all the way back down. And if you really feel into the moment, I think you'll find that you can discern like, oh, this is kind of like, they're all little higher octave frequencies. Little higher octave frequency versions of, you get that last look, you get a new look, a different angle. I know I've been looking back at some things that I used to look back and be like, man, that sucked. I didn't have any support here or whatever. But then in that, because I had spiraled up, when I dipped, I could actually realize, looking around from having maintained that higher vibrational state, oh, but look at the support that I did have. It wasn't in the way that I had expected it. And I've been focusing so long on, well, this is how it's supposed to be, and this is where, you know, your parents are supposed to and your family's supposed to. And then when I moved all that out of the way, I was like, wow, that person like drove me to all of my auditions for college. Didn't have to, but did. Or that person bought me my first headshots. Didn't have to, but just did, because these people were supportive. They were these little angels in my corner throughout that same path that I had previously viewed as just like, man, I had to do everything by myself. There may have been an element of truth in that, but the truth is actually a little bit more expansive and includes a little more than you realize when you're focused on a narrative. So allow these kind of whoopsie-doozies to just widen you out again and go, okay, so what's the angle that I haven't looked? What's the angle that I'm missing? Because I know I'm not all the way down at that zero awareness level. So what's here for me? So that was the first image today that I wanted to share. It was don't try not to micromanage really anything at this point. Choose a frequency, have a clear intention, know the vibration that you want to be emanating and moving from and as, and just trust in the flow that opens up for you inside of that, and then trust in that. Don't worry that it might not look like, you know, a larger outer picture that is also simultaneously going on. Because a lot of these chaotic things and upheavals that are going on, while on one hand it is for us, it's not for all of us in the way that it's presenting now. Like, we don't have to, if you're doing this work, you don't have to be tapped in. You already understand high contrast. You're already doing shadow work. You don't need to look at the collective shadow and magnetize yourself into that. And I know we've talked before about how resistance and insistence are two sides of the same coin. So if one group is insisting this and the other group is saying, hey, no, I resist that, guess what? The wall that's between them, you're just strengthening it. It's standing because you're both pushing together to hold it up. But if one side just goes, or you know, as more people just go, nah, and just opt out and opt into something else, then the wall crumbles on its own because there's no support anymore. So full circle with the support theme in different ways. The other image they gave me too is for those of us, again, doing this work, a lot of the reflections, the bounce backs that happen in the greater collective, you may find that you notice that it's not, again, it's, I don't want to say it's not for you, because we are all in this together, but each of our roles are different and we're only responsible for our own energy and our own evolution. And as each one of us really hones in on that and lifts up to that soul self higher octave frequency of experience and expression, that is the invitation for others to kind of magnetize towards the light, and that shadow that's around that will show you, like, oh, there's that, or what are they doing over there? That seems to be way more fun or way more lighthearted or easier, and that's how you start pulling people away from the wall. And some might go, you know, further into shadow, but like, every truth is real and valid, and every journey is the journey that you know, whoever soul is within this embodied experience is choosing to take at that time. So we don't need to attach or over-identify with anything. But what they do show me is, so because I mentioned I have a lot, you know, going on right now, and when I was doing my meditation, I pulled the 7 of Cups, which is kind of the, hey, there's all these things. You might want to pick one card. Like, they're good things, but like, you can't manifest one if you're trying if you're splitting your focus to all of them. So you have to kind of like hone in and prioritize. And then I saw a bunch of like little rubber ducky size baby duck fuzzy yellow cuties, kind of all bundled up, like trying to go through this opening that was only big enough for one of them, but they were all kind of just floating and bumping up against it together. And it was literally an image of like, get your ducks in a row. As one comes out, another can come out, and then they all can kind of like align and flow out together. And when you're in the more open sea, they all can exist together. But moving through this period, it's like focus, single-minded focus is going to be good, because you can bring all of that other stuff with you. But the other way that it applies is that when you're in that spiral and you've had like a nice little stretchy, oh, we're creating and we're in this nice stretchy fluid thing, and oh boy, we're starting to move, and then you get that kind of cluster fork of congestion in a smaller spiral up, like a transition part of the spiral. You can start to, as each one of us, and I'm talking collectively now, so as humans are spiraling together, and we're kind of clustering at that point, as each one of us worries about ourselves and does our own inner work and chooses our frequency and chooses to root in love, we pop through and we begin to like glide up. And with each one that goes through, it magnetizes for each one and each one and each one. So you may have already moved through some of your shadow, in which case you just have to keep going. It's how we kind of invite and encourage that organic resolution to happen on its own, because nothing is sustainable if it's forced or made to do something. So the best thing that we can do is live from the heart, live our truths, live with compassion and integrity and kindness, and get back to community, and understanding that we are abundance. So there's plenty for everyone. We're all here to thrive. And as we start to do that, you're generating an entirely different spiral, an entirely different reality. And the magnetism of that, as more people kind of opt in, weakens kind of this insanity that is around us now. So for some, you might need to see that. You might need to participate. Everybody's journey is everybody's journey. So if you need to protest and you need to do these things, then you do what you need to do in order to get you up the next little rung of that spiral. But if there's congestion, we kind of have to align. And as a human collective, that means align in the truth of our soul essence, which is love. And so love opens, love allows, love holds and supports, love trusts. It's not about we all need to get there first. It's like we all need to get there. So again, if we align in that frequency of unconditional love, then we all make the spiral, and when we're in the wider rung, we can all play around and be expansive again. So yeah, that was the other little image they gave me today. Yeah. Foggy brain. So what they suggested that I do is explain a little bit, and again, I'm not an astrologer, but I'm going to explain a little bit about a couple of these, eclipse season, obviously, and so they tend to reveal what was hidden because there's no light. So the only light is the one inside you. You got to kind of turn on the basement lights or the attic lights, and you got to look around. You can't be afraid of what's hiding in the cobwebs and under sheets or whatever. You just have to look, because it's there. It's not gonna not be there just because you don't want it to be there. So the other feeling, I feel like September, thankfully, has movement. I love September and October. They're such yummy months for me personally, energetically. Summer can be, and I know I talked about this last week, like a little thick, a little sticky, a little heavy, all that heat energy. So that it creates a suspension, but inside of that suspension is, it's like I'm just going to read here what they said. It's a suspended time. So that liminal space, that suspended time outside of and somehow still inside of some kind of time. I think that's a pretty good descriptor of the now times. But inside of that space, we've been squeezing through the eyes of multiple needles. And again, that's that feeling of like, didn't I already do this? Didn't this already happen? Like, again, what? And when you understand that it's this, and not like, oh, you know what I mean? It's no longer linear. Yeah, spilling, just as soon as we spill through onto the other side, we find ourselves pushing through another eye and another squeeze. And if it feels like a lot, it's because it is. And if it feels like nothing like this has ever happened before, it's because it hasn't. We are pioneering new Earth, each in our own way, each through our own individual transformation. And we're lending that alchemized energy to the emerging light of the whole of humanity's growing light and lightness of being. And that's what we just said, right? Like, it comes from us folding in. It's like you fold inward so that you can expand outward. And as you do so, like, you create this, it's just a beautiful magnetic energy that is, again, we're encouraging. If you ever see somebody, they're in flow, or somebody singing and you hear the harmony and like you add it, and the joy that like kind of like that chord lock, that they call it phase locking of frequency and tone, when you lend yourself to the bigger piece as your unique piece, that's where the magic is. We don't have to be anything other than what we are. So do your own due diligence. New reality and timeline, again, won't come from insisting or resisting. It only comes through sacred surrender. We are each now, every one of us, being called to our higher purpose. And this is our soul purpose. And we're being called to remember that we're born of source. And as such, we are source energy. And soul purpose isn't this big, grand, oh, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? That's what a lot of people, myself included for a long time, like, what's the point? What's my purpose? Here's the spoiler news flash. Your purpose was fulfilled the moment you chose to embody at this time and in this place. So that's done. All you have to do is remember. And then once you remember, you start to follow excitement, because excitement and bliss and joy, those things are what keep that source energy frequency up and humming and moving. And when you're creating from that, you can do anything, you can be anything. That flow is magnetic, and it's powerful, and it's brilliant and expansive. So that's the call to purpose, is to just understand that we all chose to be here because we wanted to be here for this. We wanted to usher in this new earth consciousness in a way that allows us all to retain all of the wisdom and the mastery gained through this embodiment, and carry it forward still inside of this embodiment, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, time has come for us to not only remember but claim that truth, stand in it, vibrate as it. But first we have to release the old story. So again, watch the narratives, watch the downward spirals, and learn how to create a spin in an opposite direction. I was watching something on Instagram where somebody was using just life force energy to move pinwheels. There was no wind. It was just that intention, putting it forward and creating the spin. It was pretty cool. And we can all do that. Intention, focus, it's a powerful thing. It's just time for us to start focusing on good stuff. Like when you lay in bed at night and you're running that narrative of, we all do it. It's like we have these little life reviews and you start beating yourself up. Oh man, oh man. But what if instead you went back to those same time periods and went, wow, like I had a realization of just how kick-ass I was to be able to do what I did and experience what I experienced, you know, during a time where there wasn't as much available as there is now. When I, New York or bust, there was no internet, there was no, like, I figured it out because it was a single-minded focus. This is what I want, this is where I'm going, there's nothing else. And there's a real power in doing that. And it's a paradox, right? Because you don't want to like lose the panoramic view, but as you're creating, you still have to set your foundational stones. So that's going to take focus. And then once they're up, they can carry more. And then once it's up, you can open more. So start focusing on the good stuff. It's pretty amazing how quickly you can shift your own spin. But the biggest thing here is we are still in Virgo season, and Virgo is like the helper, the worker. It's like, all right, let's do it. Spreadsheets and lists and all of that stuff. So we've gotta do it. And there was another image that they gave me about repotting. So when you pull a plant out of a pot that it's been living in for a couple of years, but it's outgrown it, like it needs to be in a new pot, or its roots are all kind of like it has to get taken out. But to take it out is to shock it. So we have to be willing to uproot ourselves a little bit and then clean out that root rot, shake out that old dirt, separate stuff out, reconfigure and restructure the foundation. And sometimes you realize the plant is no longer viable. But a lot of times, if you clear out some of the rot and put it in a fresh, larger container with fresh, fertilized soil, all of a sudden, it doesn't take long for it to blossom and thrive and grow. There'll be a period of like, hey, I'm fake dead now because that sucked and it was cold outside of my pot and I don't think I liked it. But ultimately when it's in the new pot, it's like, oh, hey. Also, like when I prune, like my rubber tree, they grow like straight. So if you don't cut them, they're just straight and they get heavy. So you cut them and then maybe there's an arm and it's like, oh, hey, now I'm like, woo. So now I have to like trim this a little bit and then that'll grow out. And then each one is a new plant. Each one is a new thing. So nature is amazing at showing us kind of like what to do and how to thrive. And it's not afraid of pruning and repotting. It's not afraid of its own death. It knows that everything has a season. So we're moving into a season where we have to, like, the shock is what is going to help us figure out where the rerooting is going to take place, where the repotting is going to take place. So in order to restore wholeness, they say it here, in order to restore wholeness, you have to step out of your comfort zone. This whole time period is it's an opportunity to course correct. So if you're in midlife going, what am I doing? How did I get here? Course correct. It might seem daunting, it might seem impossible, but if you start asking yourself how things are possible, if you start kind of making little lists of things that you can give to yourself, ways you can open up your world, ways you can keep your vibration high. If you're having trouble keeping your vibration high, well, what can I do? I can social media detox. I can not watch the news. I can take a walk every night after dinner. Maybe I'll take a walk with a friend some of those nights. Maybe I'll do like a paint your own, like there's so many little things that we can give ourselves that put us in flow states and in co-creation and community with each other. And that is what will be of most benefit. And then you're in an energy of other perspectives, and inside a flow state simply of walking or painting your own pottery, you don't have the noise and stuff can drop in and you go, oh my gosh, I never thought of that, and put it in your little phone notes or whatever you do, and then you have a little breadcrumb to follow, and then the more you follow them, the more you get. So don't be afraid to course correct. This is a little bit of a wake-up call. So I'm actually going to read how they gave it to me. It's an opportunity to repot and replant ourselves. It is a wake-up call, but know that the call is coming from inside the house. That's important. So no matter what it looks like outside, and it's like, whoa, man, the reason that that is there is because we are the co-creators of this shared reality. So the call is coming from inside the house. So that's the call that's the call you have to handle first, you know. The 911, it's like a self-care unit. That's what it is. So they say the message is to attune. Set your resonance dial to the higher octave frequency tone of your soul song so that you may ride the waves of these highly transformative times like an elite surfer in the right vessel. Then surrender to the flow. Become one with the wave itself. Become one with chaos from within this higher octave frequency spectrum and view. And exhilarate in the power boost that it offers, because it does offer quantum leap potential if we take it. Trust in your own deep inner knowing and that it will carry you home. To resist or insist inside of this energetic churning is to be tossed around in a too small canoe without any oars and directionless. And the other thing that I think they said it last week, like, the vessel is us again. It's not like we need something in order to. We are the something. We're it. So embrace change, even if it is challenging, even if you are being squeezed well beyond comfort. And we all are in different ways. And whatever the ways are that our souls came in here to learn, to stretch. Like, we came here to stretch and to learn and to grow and to expand and see how much light we could contain from within these lower densities. And can we allow in so much light that we facilitate our own wake-up call, our own remembering, and in a way where we can actually lift the whole of the collective out of those darker, I don't want to say darker like bad, but those lower vibrational frequencies. And the answer is we can. And again, it's going to be in the beginning like a duck at a time, you know. So don't be daunted, because again, there's a lot more cool stuff, good stuff, amazing stuff, heart-centered stuff going on than mainstream, even alternative places to get your information are all kind of like, because everybody wants views, everybody wants clicks, everybody wants whatever. There's clickbait everywhere. So start using your spidey senses and choose where you want to swim. Choose the spiral. A lot of times where you're meant to go is quiet. It's the space where there's no noise. It's like, oh hey, there, like, I could see it, like you're in a river and it's like, it seems like it's all dammed up, but you're like, oh, there's an opening right there, and you just slip through. And then the more people who go, hey, how'd they get over there, they get quiet and they look for the opening, and then eventually it's like the dam breaks because a mass of people simultaneously will go, oh, well, why are we here? Look at how cool it is over there. So just trust in the process, because it is a process and it's multifaceted and multi-layered, because we're multi-dimensional beings. Embrace change. Right. Stabilization always follows after a shock. So we just talked about it with the plants. Like, you take them out, they hate you for a hot second, you put them back in, and then they restabilize. You can feel their little roots grab. If you give a gentle tug, you're like, oh, they're in now. So we will take root and we will thrive once more. So a couple of the little astrology notes. Chiron, and again, I'm not an astrologer. I only have my own experience through my kind of own signs and my own curiosity. But Chiron is currently retrograde in Aries. I'm in Aries, which is why I know this. And it's been there for the past 8 years. And guess what? These past 8 years have been a big, fat WTF in many ways. There were some amazing highs, but Chiron is the wounded healer, who somebody said, ironically, couldn't heal himself. So there was a lot of alchemizing old wounds, a lot of moving through and closing up old patterns, a lot of self-awareness, self-growth from like looking with that unwavering gaze at the reflections that were coming back at me. It's been uncomfortable to say the least, but I'm in a good bit of the spiral right now because of it, and able to maintain much better because the weight of it is no longer with me. So because it's retrograde, it's a good moment to take a look back at your own 8 years leading up to this now moment, and look at it from, you know, one of those, a different lens, and look at it a little more panoramically, because often when we're in pain and choosing to like lean into suffering as a result of that pain, this is the view. And so if you can spiral up, you can see beyond that previous narrow view. And so you can kind of take a look around at those past 8 years and go, oh, I never actually noticed that. How interesting. I went through a whole phase where I realized, it was just a couple months ago, where I realized there were a lot of things when I was younger, like in my 20s, where I felt like I was being excluded from things. And then when I look back at it now from like up here, and my narrow lens is down here, I realize I can see clearly how I was being protected, and by the people who I thought were excluding me. Them consciously going, no, you can't be here, and me going, that sucks. How come I'm the only one who's not allowed to go? And then looking at it now, I see, oh, I understand now that I was actually being protected. Yeah, so it's a really good little game to play with yourself. And again, it instantly diffuses things, and you feel that stuff kind of melt away, and you're lighter, and you're able to sustain the higher frequencies that are coming in, and they have a place to sustain because you're not carrying all that other stuff. So yeah, Chiron in Aries retrograde, and I think it's gonna be there, I don't know, you'd have to look at. I like Leah Whitehorse a lot. Deborah Silverman is obviously amazing. There's a ton of them. Pam Gregory. There's a bunch. You can go out and kind of into your own rabbit holes with it. But it's gonna move into Taurus, and it's gonna be less sucky for me, that's for sure, as an Aries. But we really, it's like, just take a look back and where did you learn? Where did you thrive? You know, where did you stay in a hamster wheel longer than maybe needed, and now you have a better perspective of that, so that you don't do that. You can see a lot of times when we're spinning on those hamster wheels, they're just like, you're so close to not being there, but because you're only focused on the hamster wheel, you don't consider, what if I stop? Oh, the wheel's not spinning. I'll just get off then. You know, that's how simple and easy it is to take a quantum leap. It's just like everything right now is stillness. You move into stillness, you'll get the clarity, you'll be able to take a small step that is actually a quantum leap. Right. Where did I leave off? Where can we spin on the hand and say, can we see them now? Cut the loop, release, integrate. Where did we freeze? I know I was in a state where I was frozen. I was like, how about I just not move? Because, you know, a lot sucks. But that's not helpful either. So if you're in a freeze state, it's like, how can you allow yourself to thaw out from the warm glow of your own radiant light starting to emerge again? So again, it's an inside job. The 911 call is the crew's inside the house. So let that light start to warm itself, vibrate, pulse, radiate, so that you can actually thaw yourself out, get reinvigorated. Kind of like when Supergirl is like, oh no, I fought a really bad guy and my energy got depleted, and they stick her in essentially a tanning bed so that she can get the yellow sun like full on and recharge. We get to do that, but we get to do it by recharging from our own soul source point frequency light from within. And it says, can we thaw out they ask, I should say, can we thaw out and make those first achy moves into this new world? And then, can you let it all go? Can you turn and face the light of this new offering, even if you're still fumbling for the door inside of your own dark? A lot of these new steps will be taken in the dark, and that's okay. It's part of the fun. Let's go with that. But there's something very, and again, like nerd moment, like in Star Wars when Luke is like sucking at trying to like get those blasts with his lightsaber on that little bally thing that's like moving around, and then Obi-Wan makes him put on the helmet and he can't see anything. But because he can't see and he's not trying to decide where it's going, he feels the frequency of the movement and he's able to deflect. That's how my blind cat does it. That echolocation right now, it's going to be more clear than eyesight, like than our third dimensional senses, which are amazing and powerful. But we need to funnel them all into that sixth sense that's really coming online for every one of us now, not just psychics and mediums and channels. We all have it. So it's coming online, and you kind of have to surrender to it in the dark first, and then a whole other perception power comes online for you. So it is actually part of the fun. But the other big astrology thing, and I think, who was it? I think it was Leah Whitehorse who did a little bit about it. She talked about Pluto moving out of bounds in Aquarius. So what does that mean? I don't 100% know, but what I do know is, very basically speaking, out of bounds means it's moving farther away from the sun in its orbit. So there's like an elliptical movement that takes it like way over there. It's not in like a regular orbit. So inside of that, again, there's a rare and very potent opportunity for a quantum leap, because it's like a slingshot. It's like you're going back and then you can move forward, and it's Pluto, it's transformation, it's deep, it's big, and it's Aquarius into this lifted consciousness as a collective. So the first steps do have to be in the dark. We have to trust, and we have to be quiet and still, because the light you seek is always inside you. And out of bounds too means like things are going to get weirder before they settle out, and these outer planets move slowly. So again, find your favorite astrologer to know what all those time frames are. But if you just surrender to your flow, to your place in the spiral, to your opening, you'll be fine. All of that can exist simultaneously inside of you being sure-footed, inside of you experiencing joy. And I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. It's really important. We're all going to need to move through these energies in the best way that we know how to or need to for our own highest and best good. So if you need to process and grieve and be angry at things going on, and that's part of your process, then do it. My and their advice is do it from that higher still point, and allow yourself to be translucent. Don't need anything to stick. Don't take anything on as an identity. Don't get caught up in a spiral that's not your own. So that being said, if your sacred spiral is moving you into more joy, more abundance, and you're feeling giddy and vibrant and full of life force energy, don't let that peripheral thing make you feel like you shouldn't be enjoying it, or you shouldn't be experiencing it, or you shouldn't be sharing it. Yes, you absolutely should, within good taste and compassion for those around you who may be in a grief moment or whatever, but you absolutely should. And inside of those frequencies, you're going to find more people who are of that frequency, and there will be a space where we can all share it together. And that is what creates that glow that encourages other people's curiosity and allows them to turn away from the dark and go, oh, hey, there's a whole other world over there. There is. It's actually right here. And it is, as we've spoken about, it's an overlay. It's within the spiral. So each one of us in our own becoming and our own opening into this joyful exuberance and radiance of being, each one of us gives a little bit of a permission slip for those that follow. And the other image that they gave me was for my work in particular, but it's all of us, is think of yourself as a firefly on a bridge. It's a little kid would be like, whoa, cool, where's it going? And you follow it. You follow it. I mean, when we were little, we would catch them and put them in jars. Sad, but pretty. But you follow it. It's something that's just whimsical and magical enough. And the firefly isn't saying, hey, psst, over here, you need to do this, or this is the way. The firefly just flickers. And it flutters, and it flies, and it pulses, and it radiates, and it's magical, and it brings joy to everybody that sees it. Even if it's just a little moment of it, it's a little reminder of what's inside of us. And each one of us gets to be that firefly. And just in that pulse, that's enough. That's enough. That's all we have to be. That is the purpose. That is our big purpose, is to be the firefly in the dark. For ourselves, so that others may know it in themselves. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave that there. There were two Wayne Dyer quotes that pulled through for this particular message. And this one I'd never heard before, and it's so gorgeous. A composer once told me that the silence from which each note emerges is more important than the note itself. Ha! So yeah, sit with that a little bit, especially in those kind of darker moments where you're trying to find the light within. Let that be a little calling card that sticks inside of your beingness, and you can call up again at exactly the right moment when you're about to play that new note, but you haven't quite tuned it yet, or you can't quite hear it yet, but it's there. And then the other one that came through, also Wayne Dyer, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And I think that is kind of like a big crux of these now times. Start looking at yourself and your neighbors and your family and your friends and just people in general, and seeing them as their source point frequencies. See them as that firefly flicker. And as you start to see them as that, and they feel what that feels like when they're around you, they feel that glow, and they think it's you, but it's that you reminded them that it's them. Things change, and you don't have to say a word. You just have to breathe it into being. So yeah, I think I will leave us there with that. Thank you for being here. It'd be awesome if you would subscribe. I'm trying to do a Substack thing. I'm a little overwhelmed by it at the moment. But what I'm going to do is put up a lot of these transcriptions. So if anybody wants to actually have the words and read the words, I'm going to start putting them up over there. And eventually I'll learn how to use it. But for now, they want me to write it and share it for those of you who like to read it, because you will get new stuff from listening, from watching. Each of the senses has something to offer. So I could make it a soup. That would be interesting. And I will say this, I can leave you with a tarot spread that you can try for yourself. I found it to be really powerful, both in the workshop and for myself and my partner. And it is the repotting spread. It's basically, for those of you who know tarot, it's a partial Celtic cross. So it's just the center card, no cross, just the center card, the two sides and the tops. And you do two of those side by side. And effectively what you're looking at is old pot and new pot. And in the center is, that's the pot itself. And so you're looking at, around it, we found that we were looking at root systems, we were looking at potentially, pests or fertilizer or growth potential. All of the other cards, it's a loose spread. So I encourage you to just look at the pictures and see how it makes you feel, and use a deck with good pictures if you're not like adept or studied or practiced, I should say, with using them. But look at the pictures and how they make you feel. But old pot give you a clear picture of kind of where you are, and new pot and a clear picture of where you're headed. And sometimes new pot we noticed, can be a transition pot. So you look at it and maybe old pot wasn't so bad, but there is a bit of outgrowth, a need for pruning. And you go into this pot, and I was joking, I'm like, some of you have like plastic containers. It's not the pretty fancy ceramic pot yet. So if that's the case for you, then you can maybe take a couple months, maybe like in December, do it again and see what comes up for you. But yeah, partial Celtic cross, 5 cards, and the intentional card will be the center, old pot, new pot, and then above and below and either side will kind of inform the plant itself and the journey itself. So feel free to play around with that if that helps you. And now I'm gonna sign off. So yeah, I will find my Substack link and put it in the description. Website should be up by the end of this month, maybe next month. My friend Melissa's working on it now, and I'll link that in once I have it. I'm very excited. And for those of you in the area, I'm doing an art block party in West Collingswood on Sunday. So I'll be doing little mini tarot readings from 12 to 3 p.m. So if you're in the area, stop on by. West Collingswood could use the love. Main Collingswood downtown gets a lot of love, but West Collingswood is like its own little thing. So we're trying to bring some of the love, that Collingswood love, over there. For those of you in New Jersey who know what that means. But yeah, so subscribe, like, comment. I'd love to chat with you all about where you are, how you're doing, and just keep this vibe high and keep us all aligning so that we can spiral up together. Okay, I'm signing off. Happy weekend.